Economists look at a measure of inflation that ignores food and energy prices, and they call it core inflation. That's about the lowest amount in several months. When you couple that with last week's booming jobs report of 528,000 jobs created last month and 3.5% unemployment, it underscores the kind of economy we've been building. We're seeing a stronger labor market where jobs are booming and Americans are working, and we're seeing some signs that inflation may be beginning to moderate. That's what happens when you build an economy from the low.
Though in an official statement, the lawmakers that support the bill have confirmed that the proposal is going to be different. Instead of federal level relief funds, it'll come from the state's general funds. According to state officials, individuals with a household income of $80,000 or less can apply for a one-time state tax exempted payment of up to $2,000 per household. With rising inflation and gas prices, the fourth round of federal level stimulus has been a big topic of discussion in the last few months. It was just last month when the Biden administration announced that it was considering two options as the official stimulus plan in response to rising gas prices. In May, Delaware began sending relief rebate payments of $300 to taxpayers who filed a return in 2020 due to a budget surplus. Most Delaware residents received these payments in May, and couples filing jointly can get $300 each. The state government is continuing to send these payments throughout the summer, and last month, Ron DeSantis of Florida announced that 59,000 low-income families in the state will qualify for a one-time check of $450 per child. The stimulus is being distributed through the Florida Department of Children and Families to residents. Governor Kemp of Georgia signed legislation to give out rebate payments of $250 for single filers, $375 for head of households, and $500 for those filing jointly. The stimulus package came under the budget surplus in the state, and the Georgia Department of Revenue has been giving out these rebates since May. But the agency has been also anticipating delays due to the amount of refunds. Folks, the IRS has just released a very important announcement in regards to future relief payments. Democrats and Republicans in Congress are now addressing Social Security with new legislation this month. Many economists and lawmakers are now pushing for a $1,400 one-time stimulus check for seniors to be passed as soon as possible. Americans are pessimistic about the future of Social Security, and the crisis has made it even worse. A recent survey found that 59% of people now worry more about Social Security running out of funding than they did before the onset of the crisis. And that has changed their outlook on one of the biggest decisions that they will make in their lives, when they claim Social Security retirement benefits. Almost 1 in 5 survey respondents said the crisis has changed their plans to file for Social Security benefits, with 9% planning to file earlier and 11% delaying filing. Yet a recent Social Security Trustees annual report that was the first to consider the effects of the crisis struck a slightly more optimistic tone. The report projected a new depletion date of 2035 for the program's funds, 1 year later than had been projected in 2021. Assuming Congress takes no action in intervening years, at that time, 80% of benefits would be payable.
Fashionable, we might offend some wealthy campaign contributors. But today, obscenely, you got 3 people who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You have the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. You have 45% of all new income going to the 1%. And you got CEOs of major corporations making 350 times more than average workers. In other words, the people in the middle, working people, struggling, people on top doing phenomenally well, and the people on the top have enough money to elect candidates who represent their interests. And that is the overall context, in my view, in which this reconciliation bill is coming to the floor. Now, I have heard from some of my colleagues that the Build Back Better legislation passed by the U.S. House of Representatives and supported by some 48 out of 50 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus and by the President of the United States is dead, not going anywhere. Can't get the 50 votes that is needed. Now, I don't know if that is absolutely true or not, but I do know that if it is true, it would be a disaster for the working families of our country who today are desperately trying to survive economically. So let me briefly review what was in the original Build Back Better plan and contrast it with what is in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. And I should mention that every one of the provisions that I will briefly be discussing has overwhelming support from the American people, according to poll after poll after poll. In other words, that is what the American people want. Madam President, at a time when the United States has the highest rate of childhood poverty, shamefully, of almost any major nation on earth, this reconciliation bill that will soon be coming to the floor does not extend the $300 a month per child tax credit that working parents of this country had last year. That's gone. That is not in this bill. If you are a parent today paying $15,000 a year for child care, which is what it costs in Vermont and is about the average cost.
Tens, also less than the 0.5% anticipated, and less than half for the rearview mirror, which was up 0.7. The high water mark here, folks, goes all the way back to April of 2021 when it was up 0.9%. Now, the year-over-year numbers, year-over-year headline up 8.5. This is the one I was a bit nervous about. In the rearview mirror, it was up 9.1. That was the highest since 1981. 8.5 brings us back to levels we haven't seen since just April of this year. And finally, food and energy on the year-over-year outlook, up 5.9, expected to be up 6.1. It equals our last look, which was up 5.9. High water mark here was in March, where it was up 6.5, the highest since 1982. And if we look at what's going on with interest rates, they are falling. And for a change, we have a bull steepening going on. Bull steepening, meaning prices are rising, and that's pushing short rates down almost twice as fast as long rates, but all rates are going down. We're down almost 16 basis points in a 2-year. We're down about 10 basis points in a 10-year. And it underscores the Fed, by its very nature of ill forecasting success, is reactionary. The market's not, and the market continues to do what it's now done for weeks and weeks, and that is long rates are moving down. It believes that transient ultimately will be the correct word. The problem was the